What's up guys, and welcome to the penultimate round of my 2019 F1 modded career mode, here today for the Brazilian Grand Prix, at one of the best circuits on the calendar for close racing and overtaking here in Interlagos. So everything is set for a brilliant race this afternoon, and hopefully you guys are still enjoying this series. It's coming to an end, but we have got a Season 2 on the way, which I'll reveal before too long. But if you are enjoying this series, do make sure to drop a like down below. So we may be at the penultimate round of the season, but that hasn't stopped us from bringing 2 upgrades to this race. So yeah, we've got an aerodynamics and a chassis upgrade, which should do us really well in the performance charts. And believe it or not, we've blown all of our resource points on 2 final upgrades for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, seeing as this is the last time I'm going to use this career mode save. Now in terms of the performance chart, believe it or not many teams are bringing upgrades at this stage of the season, so we're still ahead of Red Bull and we are right behind the Mercedes or Ferrari, although to be fair, all of the top 4 teams are still bringing upgrades. So getting onto the grid now for this Brazilian Grand Prix, and it is Valtteri Bottas who will start on pole position. He's 16 points behind the championship leader Sebastian Vettel, and he'll be leading the pack away ahead of our teammate Daniel Ricciardo in P2. With ourselves in P3, it was so tight, as you can see. Even Pierre Gasly was within a tenth of a second of pole position. Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton will line up on a very strong looking row 3, with Carlos Sainz putting in a very good performance to get 7th place, and Kimi Raikkonen as well, a good lap from him to get him in to 10th. Charles Leclerc has taken a penalty, meaning he'll start all the way down in 14th, and the same goes for Max Verstappen, who'll start directly behind him in P16. And then rounding out the grid, we have got Daniel Kvyat and Alexander Albon in the Toro Rossos, with Robert Kubica and Kevin Magnussen starting behind them. Now the strategy this afternoon is looking like a 2-stopper, starting on the super softs that we qualified on, then going on to another set of super softs before finishing off the final 14 laps on the soft tyre. So just 2 rounds left to go and the championship hunt is still on for the 2 Mercedes drivers, but the man in prime position to take the title is Sebastian Vettel. But he is starting down in P5 today, which gives Bottas a good opportunity to close that gap. Lewis Hamilton, though, couldn't capitalise on Vettel's misfortunes in qualifying, and Hamilton actually starts behind Vettel in the pecking order. Ourselves, we're looking to close up to Charles Leclerc. The gap is just 2 points as we go into this Brazilian Grand Prix, and we're now lining up on the grid and ready to go to the 5 red lights. We stare up above as we go to the 5 lights now, and away we go here at Interlagos. It's not a bad start from us, pretty even between ourselves, Ricciardo and Bottas, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any movement into turn 1. Pierre Gasly, though, is under a bit of pressure from Sebastian Vettel, but he manages to hold firm, does the Frenchman, and we are still in P3, quite a long way behind Daniel Ricciardo, but we're not under threat from being overtaken by Pierre Gasly. So it's probably the most uneventful first sector we have had for a very, very long time, as we now go into Sector 2 now and up to the Ferradura at Turn 6. One of the most satisfying corners to get right, but if you get it wrong and the tail steps out, it's not going to look pretty, I think it's fair to say. So we're looking here at our teammate Daniel Ricciardo, who is sat just in front of us in P2 and just behind the second place man in the championship, Valtteri Bottas, who has got a clean start, which is, I'm sure, exactly what he wanted. And if it stays like this, with Bottas in first and Vettel in 5th, then the gap going into the final round would be just 1 point. So it's all to play for at this stage of the Grand Prix, but of course there is a very, very long way to go. In terms of laps, it's one of the longest Grand Prix of the year, 36 laps for this 50% race. But lap 1 is already done, so it does go quite quickly. And now we're going to take a look at a replay of the start anyway and see exactly what happened. But to be honest, there wasn't really much to pick up on, apart from the fact that Vettel tried to move on Gasly just behind us. And there was a little bit of carnage further back in the field, but up at the front, a very, very clean start, it has to be said. Everyone was very well behaved, and there you can see the top 2 building a little bit of a gap over ourselves, and there was a little bit of carnage actually behind us. So we're going to take a look on board from the man that started in P7, Carlos Sainz. He had a cracking qualifying, and he had a very, very good launch off the line as well, which left him side by side with Lewis Hamilton, who is in a very quick Mercedes car on paper. But there we go. They go side by side through the Senna S and the Curva do Sol. And as they go now up the Retta Apposta, you can see that Sainz just got outdone on the straight, although he was late on the brakes and actually tagged Vettel from behind. I'm sure Vettel had flashbacks from the 2012 Brazilian Grand Prix. And there you can see Hamilton still going up the Ferradura around the outside of Carlos Sainz. And in the end, the Mercedes man managed to get ahead of the Spaniard. But a very valiant effort from Carlos Sainz, so fair play to him. And I'm sure he will be on for a good result if he keeps racing like that. But now back on board with ourselves, we're at the end of lap 2, going into the overtake ERS mode, and we're actually just behind our teammate now, Daniel Ricciardo, in this battle for P2. But Valtteri Bottas is sticking in laps that are a good 8 or 9 tenths of a second quicker than myself or Ricciardo, which is looking quite ominous at this stage of the Grand Prix. But we are closing up to Ricciardo, and we've got DRS now along the Retta Apposta and towards the Descida de Largo for the 3rd time in this Grand Prix. The Descida de Largo, probably one of the more satisfying corners on this circuit. There's a really good flow through there, and the same goes for the Ferradura. And all in all, it's just a very, very exciting and rewarding circuit to drive around, and hopefully we can get some rewards by overtaking Daniel Ricciardo at the end of lap 3 now. The first time that we're going to get DRS along the pit straight, and we're going to go round the outside of the Australian. A pretty easy move, to be fair, at the start of lap 4. Don't even need to do it under braking, fortunately, because we did lock up there, so we're not going to get a brilliant exit off the Senna S and through the Curva do Sol, which means that Ricciardo might actually have a go at us here up the Retta Apposta. Once more we go, and he's going to be side by side between the two of us, and he goes diving down the inside. One of Ricciardo's trademark dive moves down the inside. Looks very, very clean from his perspective. And now we are right on the gearbox of our teammate. We brake early, so we don't want to be crashing at such an early stage in the race, especially when you've got 33 points possibly coming home for the Renault team. But we're just going to follow him through this middle sector, go down to low ERS deployment so that we can use as much as we want on the pit straight and in the other DRS zone on the run to turn 4. So now we come towards the final corner at Junsao, and just look at that, we're so much quicker than Ricciardo. We actually had to slam on the brakes there because he was going so slowly through Junsao, and hopefully we can dispatch him properly this time and get our braking sorted into turn 1. There's a little bit of wheel bashing with Ricciardo going very defensive there into that final corner, but once again we lock up, and I think though this time we're going to get a much better run through the Senna S. Indeed we do, and you'd expect us to get clear of Daniel Ricciardo here and not even give him a chance to overtake us. We go very defensive into Descida de Largo. Unfortunately, we resist the threat, but unfortunately Valtteri Bottas is now 3.6 seconds up the road. As we skip all the way forward to lap 8, that gap has extended to 8 seconds, and it's not looking good at the moment. And then we get a massive tank slapper off the exit of Junsao. The curbs here are absolutely lethal, just like we found out last time in the Mexican Grand Prix. But this time we've actually been punished by Pierre Gasly, and he's got ahead of our teammate Ricciardo and ourselves in the matter of a couple of laps. So Gasly's up into P2. And that's a really frustrating one because we'd shown a decent bit of pace, just about got out of DRS range of Pierre Gasly behind us. And now we've got to do all the hard work over again. You know, we started in P3, got up to P2, and we've been relegated back down to P3. And at this stage of the race, it's looking like P2 is really the maximum we can get, because Bottas is absolutely flying up at the front. And as we come to lap 10, it now looks like Pierre Gasly has pulled enough of a gap to get out of DRS range of ourselves. So within the space of a couple of laps, our race seems to be unfolding a little bit here, but we are at the end of the first stint, so maybe it was a little bit of tyre wear. Of course, we have struggled with a lot of tyre wear issues through the course of this season due to my aggressive driving style and just terrible lockups generally in this Grand Prix. So the first stop of the afternoon is for another set of the Super Softs. Of course, we will be in once more before the race is done for a set of the soft compound tyres But for now, we should be going for about 11 laps on this stint. So plan to pit, I believe it is on lap 21 or 22 in this Grand Prix before the final dash on the soft compound tyres. But we come out quite a bit behind Pierre Gasly. Bearing in mind the gap was 1.1 seconds. It's now 2.8. And this just seems to be happening in recent races where we're losing so much time in the pit stops. And I can't put my finger on why, because, you know, I'm slowing down alright. I seem to be X'd in the pit lane okay. And the stop seems alright. So a little bit of a baffling one there, but I'm sure we'll do our utmost to try and close in on Gasly in the next few laps. Meanwhile, the pit lane's looking a bit busy at the end of lap 11. Loads of cars in the pit lane, and it looks as if Lewis Hamilton is going to be exiting, but fortunately he's going to be exiting behind us, meaning that we stay ahead of our fellow Brit. And now we come towards the Descida de Largo with Lando Norris and Pierre Gasly about 2.3, 2.4 seconds up the road, I think Gasly is. And fortunately, I think he's been held up a little bit by Lando Norris there. And I'd like to think that we've got the pace to overtake another Brit on this grid. So 7th, 8th and 9th all occupied by British drivers. Brexit really does mean Brexit. Anyway, we're going to get into the middle sector now, and we come through turn 10 and through turn 11 we go. Another really difficult corner to get right, but we seem to have done just that, and we've actually gone purple through sector 2, so it's no surprise that we've caught right up to Lando Norris, and we're going to be going side by side now through turn 13 and 14, but it looks as if we're going to get the move done. We don't have DRS, but we do have a much more powerful engine than that McLaren. Meanwhile, we've got Lewis Hamilton. You can see him charging up behind us there. And it looks as if Norris is going to try and go all the way round our outside, which then turns to the inside for turn 2, but we do sweep round his outside. We've sort of pinched him a little bit there, I think the term is. And we are up into P6, which is a net P3. There's still a few drivers that haven't pitted up ahead. One of which being the man occupying P5, Sergio Perez, who is 3.6 seconds up the road. But fast forward to the end of lap 13, and we've gained nearly 3 seconds on Perez through the course of lap 13, as Max Verstappen sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. But we don't need to worry about him. We just need to worry about overtaking Sergio Perez at the moment, as we close and close and close on the Mexican driver, and we charge it down the inside. And a lovely little move there. Much more easy than the move that we made on him last time out in his home Grand Prix in Mexico. No contact this time for starters. But yeah, that's good to see. And before too long, we are now on the tail of Pierre Gasly, the man that we've been battling for quite a few laps now. And the reason for that is in the middle sector, he got stuck behind Kimi Raikkonen, who just so happens to peel into the pit lane at the end of lap 14. As we set the fastest lap of the Brazilian Grand Prix, and this is a perfect opportunity to try and get ahead of Pierre Gasly, who won't have DRS on any cars in front. He's got a little bit of a tank slapper off the exit of the Senna S, and we're going to pull to the outside. And well, by turn 4 we should be able to get past him, but no, he just goes down our inside, brakes very late, and we're going to have to go side by side with him now on the run up to turn 6. Are we going to be able to get the move done? We're on the inside. Yes, we do. Up into P3 on the track, and net P2. And Lance Stroll is next up. Another Racing Point car that hasn't made his first pit stop of the afternoon. So I'd like to think that we will be able to dispatch of him before too long, seeing that he has done 15 laps on that set of super soft tyres. And that makes me think that he's on a one-stop strategy this afternoon. And I don't think he'll be the only man trying to do that. Everyone that started outside of the top 10, of course, with free choice of tyres at the start. And a fresh set of super softs, as opposed to the ones that we used in qualifying that we used for a couple of laps. So anyway, Stroll's in the pit lane. We are unleashed into P2, but we are 11.8 seconds behind Valtteri Bottas, which is a little bit of an issue. So we can pretty much wave goodbye to finishing in P1 in this Grand Prix, unless something drastic happens to Valtteri Bottas, or we get a safety car, which, judging by this series, is highly, highly likely. But for the moment, we need to concentrate on keeping P2, because we've now got Pierre Gasly charging up our inside. Where has that speed come from? In his Honda engine, as there's a little bit of contact, because he just goes so slowly on the exit of Descida de Largo. and he takes P2 back. But we're not done there, as on lap 20 we are back up behind him. We've managed to stay within touching distance of the Frenchman, and we go back for round 2 in as many laps, and we're now going to hopefully go down the inside of him as we go purple through the first sector. So we're looking pretty good, but the track is just so tight here at Interlagos that you know, if you go for a move, you've got to make sure that it's going to stick, or else you could be in big trouble. So we charge down the inside of Gasly, who leaves us absolutely no room. And it was a little bit of an ambitious move from ourselves, but I would like a little bit of room from Gasly. It would have been nice, but he did cut us off. And it doesn't mean that we're not in with a chance of overtaking him at the end of lap 20, because we now come towards Junsao, and it is all about a good exit off this corner. 0.4 of a second behind we are, and we go into the overtake ERS deployment. We've still got plenty of ERS to use through this final sector, and indeed the first sector of the next lap. And so we are closing in on Gasly, but I don't think it's going to be enough to make a move on him at turn 1. No, we think better of it as he goes defensive, but that means that we're going to get a brilliant run on him surely now. On the run to the end of Sector 1, we get the DRS, and we're already side by side with him before we've even got to Descida de Largo, and we do get ahead of him by the looks of it. He's going to try it round the outside, but we make the move stick for P2, and something tells me that's not going to be the last we see of the battle between myself and Gasly. 15 laps to go, 2 very tightly matched cars, and sure enough, come the end of lap 22, Gasly is still behind us, and we decide to come in to the pit lane for our second and final stop of the afternoon. So we've managed to do 12 laps on this set of super soft tyres, so 14 laps on the soft tyres should be a doddle really, as Gasly also fitting the soft tyres. And fortunately, he hasn't jumped us in the pit lane, so his pit stop wasn't significantly better than our own this time. So on pit exit, we're trying to just get a good exit now out of this pit lane, because it is so difficult. Obviously, you don't want to bin your car in the barriers, but you also want to try and carry as much speed through that section as possible. We've tried to do that, but Gasly is right on our tail, and now we are behind Max Verstappen on the track, who I think is going for a one-stop strategy. He's 14 seconds ahead as well. So this could get interesting. This could get very interesting, as our teammate Daniel Ricciardo is now in at the pits. But we'll have to keep an eye on Verstappen, because he started all the way down in P14, I believe. Or no, sorry, P16 in this Grand Prix, which has allowed him to go for the one-stop strategy. And he's now battling with Sebastian Vettel up ahead, but we are back battling with Pierre Gasly. Our battle has recommenced, and he cuts across us as we go into the start of the Senna S, and we've been collected. What is going on? And we're going to have to take a look at what happened there. Gasly goes around our outside and then cuts right back across us and gives us no room whatsoever. And guys, you're going to have to let me know down in the comments what you think of this incident. But he gives us the room and then just literally cuts back onto the apex of turn 1. What's all that about? I mean, I think this angle shows it best. He just literally pinches us and gives us no room. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton sweeps by, says, "Thank you very much, boys, and your clumsiness." But the safety car has been deployed as a result of that incident. Our car's all over the place because we've been on the grass. But fortunately, we've sustained no damage. I think Pierre Gasly has ended up coming off worse there. And, well, we've battled with each other for a good 20 laps or so. It was always going to come undone at some point, and it just happened to be lap 24. So we're now under safety car conditions, and it's all change at the front. Not the man in first place, but the man in second place, because it is now a Mercedes 1-2 with Valtteri Bottas still leading the way. His gap has been trimmed a lot, but it is his teammate Lewis Hamilton in P2. So he is in between the two championship rivals, because Sebastian Vettel's in P3. Then it's Max Verstappen in 4th, followed by our teammate Daniel Ricciardo, who has managed to get ahead of us. Then it's Kimi Raikkonen, who's on the medium compound of tyres, presumably going to the end of this Grand Prix. But it's a Mercedes 1-2. Lewis Hamilton will surely try and play the team game so that he can try and aid his teammate to winning this championship. We now go green at the end of lap 27. We're going to have to dispatch of Kimi Raikkonen if we have got any chance of getting a podium in this Grand Prix. But we can't make the move into the first DRS, and then we get a very, very poor exit off turn 2. And coming through the Curva do Sol, we've got a lot of work to do if we don't want to be overtaken by Lance Stroll, because you can see in our left-hand mirror that pink Racing Point car is not far behind. And Lewis Hamilton, in trying to defend from Sebastian Vettel up ahead, has sort of had a little bit of a mini crash between the two of them. But that has allowed his teammates to get a good gap up ahead, so it was maybe part of the team game. Meanwhile, we dive one up the inside of Kimi Raikkonen to get up into P6. Unfortunately, we were given plenty of room by the Finn, unlike last time out where we tried to move on him and we got completely, well, pinched. And I was going to say taken out, but we didn't get taken out. Unfortunately, we didn't this time either. So we're up into P6, behind our teammates. And this is a little bit of a contrast to earlier on in the Grand Prix. Myself and Ricciardo seem to have a habit of falling back during the Grand Prix. We were running 2nd and 3rd. We're now running 5th and 6th. And we've got a little bit unlucky, I think, with the safety car. As well as, obviously, you know, me being taken out by Pierre Gasly. But we'll gloss over that, because we are still in the hunt for a podium position. And we're back behind our teammate on lap 30. And we're now going to try and overtake, surely, as we will have the DRS. Although he'll have it on the car ahead, which looks like it is Sebastian Vettel. So he has dropped back behind Max Verstappen. So the championship leader has had a little bit of a nightmare restart after the safety car period, as Ricciardo is also closing in on the Ferrari driver. So this is going to be an interesting end to the Grand Prix. And Charles Leclerc is also behind us. So we've got another Ferrari, and Lewis Hamilton has run wide. It's not gone well for him. He was battling with Max Verstappen, and his valiant effort to try and defend his teammate has finally come to an end. So can we now get past the vulnerable Mercedes driver? We stick our nose down the inside, but Hamilton covers it and says, "You're not getting past me" as well. Although our teammate Daniel Ricciardo now up in P4. So he's ahead of Hamilton, which we wouldn't have expected even a couple of laps ago. And we are murdering this gearbox of Lewis Hamilton, who's surely sustained some sort of front wing damage. We're going to try and go all the way around the outside, but we think better of it going into Jun Sao. And Hamilton now looks as if he's going to get a good run on Daniel Ricciardo at the end of lap 31. This one could end interestingly. Hamilton looking like a man on a mission as he goes charging down the inside of Ricciardo. It looks as if there was a bit of contact between the two of them. And can we now pounce on our teammates, as we're almost pushing him through turn 1. We've given him a little half spin. Oh my word, that would have been Cyril Abiteboul going crazy on the pit wall, especially if we'd have taken each other out. But we do stick behind for the meantime. And we should probably learn to be a little less ambitious on our teammate. But we are still pushing him through this first sector. Not for the first time in this Grand Prix. We're being held up by our teammate on lap 32. And we fast forward to the end of lap 32. And we're still behind our teammate, but we're going to try and go all the way around the outside on the run-up to Jun Sao, I was going to say. But we got punted off. Absolutely punted off by Ricciardo. He's giving no quarter. As, of course, we're out of the championship battle now. So, you know, there's no team orders at play or anything. It is just a straight fight on the track. And hopefully we can take the position off our Australian teammate, because we go up the inside. We're not even going to get a lock-up this time for the first time in a while. And we go sailing round Daniel Ricciardo to take P5 in this Grand Prix. Hopefully we can stay like that between now and the end of the Grand Prix, because it doesn't look as if we're going to get close to Lewis Hamilton, who's now 3.6 seconds up the road. Wow, Ricciardo has cost us a lot of time there. But as you can see, nothing else really happened for the rest of the Grand Prix. We closed up on Max Verstappen up ahead. So Verstappen obviously overtaken by Lewis Hamilton before the end of the Grand Prix. But it was Valtteri Bottas who took the W here in Brazil ahead of his championship rival Sebastian Vettel. But we come home for P5 here in Brazil. A mixed race. It definitely could have been P2 for us. I still believe if we hadn't have crashed with Gasly, that would have been P2 in the bag for us. But it was that man who completely dominated this race and very much deserved his P1 here. So fair play to him, and it is all to play for as we go into the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which of course will be out tomorrow. And the top 3 in the championship occupied the 3 podium positions. Not in championship order, but it could well be championship order after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is all said and done. So in a minute, we'll take a look at exactly what the Drivers' Championship is looking like. But here are the full race results. Of course, we've already been through the top 3. 4th place, Max Verstappen from P16 on the grid. A race reminiscent of his teammate, Pierre Gasly, last time out in Mexico. Of course, Gasly went from 20th to 5th. Verstappen from 16th to 4th, equally as impressive. Our teammate Daniel Ricciardo had a poor end to the Grand Prix. He fell behind both Leclerc and Raikkonen after we overtook him on lap 32. So just the 4 points for him and just the 1 point for Pierre Gasly. That's karma, mate. That's what you get for taking me out. But you can see there's a lot of one-stoppers on the cars, I guess you could say, on the race results. So yeah, it was very much possible to do a one-stopper if you started outside of the top 10, which is why we didn't really attempt it, because I just think our tyres would have completely worn thin. But now we take a look at the Drivers' Championship. So it's Vettel leading by 9 points from Bottas, with Hamilton out of the equation now. So he's going to have to help his teammate next time out. And then we've got ourselves and Charles Leclerc equal on 207 points. So we've still got a shot at getting that 4th place in at the standings. But 4th place looks as if all that we can get with Renault, unless we have a brilliant race in Abu Dhabi and Red Bull have an absolute stinker. And Mercedes 17 points ahead of Ferrari, so it's all to play for between them as we go to Abu Dhabi next time out. But that is it for the Brazilian Grand Prix. It was an exciting one. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. And join me tomorrow for the season finale. But until then, do take care. Bye bye.